Hello and welcome to this video presentation of Dasher Technology's Hierarchy of Security Needs. I'm Kellen Christensen, and I'll be your host today as we discuss a little bit different way to think about IT security needs for businesses. A little about me before we start. I'm a solution architect for Dasher, covering networking and security out of our Pacific Northwest office, which is located in the Portland, Oregon metropolitan area. When I'm not busy working on technology, you can probably find me at a soccer match, be it the Portland Timbers or Thorns or the United States men's or women's national soccer teams. If you have any questions or comments about this presentation, do feel free to email me at kellen.christensen@dasher.com, or you can find me on Twitter at christech, spelled Tekit. Not sure how many of you are familiar with Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, so here's a little background. Abraham Maslow was a humanistic psychologist, which put him in a little bit different bucket than most of the other well-known psychologists such as Freud. The reason why is Maslow typically spent his time studying healthy and successful people. Most psychologists would study people who had mental disorders or other deficiencies. As one of the most cited psychologists of all time, Maslow was best known for his hierarchy of needs, which we'll review in a minute, as well as the law of the instrument, which is also known as Maslow's hammer. Being in IT, I get a lot of enjoyment out of this particular law, so I thought I would share it with you. It says, I suppose it is tempting, if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail. So here is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In short, this is a prioritized flow of human needs and motivations as they move through healthy human development. The idea is that it is significantly tougher to move higher up the pyramid toward that full human potential without the needs at the lower levels being met to the satisfaction of the person in question. As I was researching for this presentation, I found this slightly modified version of the hierarchy of needs, and I felt that would resonate with many of the people watching this presentation. It certainly resonated with me when I find myself looking for Wi-Fi and not able to find it. So you're probably now sitting there saying, this is all well and good, but how does this translate to IT security? Without further delay, here is Dasher's hierarchy of IT security needs. I'll dive into these in more detail in just a minute, but at a high level, an organization moves through these levels of self-awareness, basic needs, data and user protection, and finally reaching security actualization, where an organization is operating at its highest potential when it comes to IT security. At the base level, we have what we're referring to as self-awareness. It's surprising to me how many organizations that I speak to that have a hard time telling me basic facts about their environment. What devices are on the network? Are they supposed to be there? What's installed on it? Who are the users? Who are the administrators? How is it configured? Is it being patched? Do they know of any vulnerabilities in the systems? What is the system doing? What was it doing? These are all critical questions because if you can't accurately answer these questions, it's hard to defend against threats to your organization and to your systems. A number of different IT security solutions fit into this level. Things such as asset tracking and patching systems, network access control, and monitoring and log collection systems. I refer to this base layer as knowing, because as G.I. Joe taught us, knowing is half the battle. The next layer of the hierarchy is what we refer to as the basic needs. This is where we see a lot of organizations start to build out their IT security posture with things like anti-malware solutions, firewalls, email security, Wi-Fi security, including 802.1x. One solution that we often see people, especially in information security teams, forget about, which should also be addressed at this level, is backups. It's amazing how many organizations don't have a strong backup posture. When organizations get hit with something such as ransomware, the time or money or both in some situations that gets spent to get departments or even entire organizations back to a normal operating level is alarming. And that's why it's so important to cover backups as part of kind of these basic level implementations of different security solutions. I like to refer to this level of the hierarchy as fundamentals. And as the famous football coach Vince Lombardi once said, excellence is achieved by the mastery of the fundamentals. If you can't get past this layer, it's so much harder to reach that strong security posture. The third layer of the hierarchy is data and user protection. To me, this is the point of everything we do in IT security. But it's where we really started to get into the weeds of what's going on in our environment from an intellectual property perspective. This layer is all about identifying and controlling data, where it lives, who can access it, where it's allowed to go. We also like to talk about user monitoring here as well. Where do your users live, both within your environment and sometimes geographically? Where can they get access to your data? How do they access the data? Things like VPN or those types of solutions can come into play in these situations. Applications are a conduit for data access as well, and they need to be protected just as much at this layer. Whether this is making sure third-party applications are supported and patched by the providers, to making sure that in-house applications have been thoroughly tested and protected as well. From a solution perspective, when organizations get to this level, they're typically looking at data loss prevention solutions. They're looking for multi-factor or adaptive authentication solutions, and they're also looking at web application firewalls. To me, data and user protection, this is all about securing the family jewels, so to say. Finally, we're reaching the pinnacle, the security actualization. All of that infrastructure is in place, everything is known, everything is understood, and everything is protected. Now it's time to work on the people. When we refer to people at this level, we're talking about both end users and administrators. Security awareness training for end users should be happening at regular intervals. It should be relevant based on your organization and its risks, and it should be required. And the whole idea of training like this is teaching your end users to fish, not the email scam type of fish, but the more traditional term. Enabling them to make good information security decisions, both for themselves and for your organization. Security training isn't just for general users either. Admins not only need to be aware of the risks that they bring to the table, but they also need to understand what their roles are when it comes to a security incident response. There's nothing worse than having too many cooks in the kitchen when trying to rapidly respond to a threat, which is why having those incident response plans and team roles defined, as well as regularly running tabletop exercises to see how incident response would flow, maybe you need to make tweaks, is critical. This is also where we start to recommend full-on penetration testing, red team exercises, and the like to organizations to help validate all of the defenses that they have put in place are working as expected. Security actualization is where your users and administrators become the A team for your organization from an information security perspective. Now, after going through all of that, does this seem familiar to anybody? Well, after a hint. How about now? All we have done today is taken the CenterNet for Internet Security's 20 critical security controls and applied them in a little bit different format. For those of you who aren't familiar with the CIS 20 controls, this is an ordered list of information security priorities that organizations can use to improve their security posture. Dasher Technologies is a CIS Secure Suite member, which means we're able to come into an organization, assess the current state of their information security posture against these controls, and make recommendations on how to make their environment more secure. If you're interested in learning more about our use of the CIS 20 controls, please feel free to contact me or your account manager, and we're happy to meet with you to discuss it in more depth. We have reached the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and have a great rest of your day.